That's the hypnosis brand that I work with. Yeah. Now, as I said earlier, there's a lot of myths. You can say it down now, Carlos. There's a lot of myths. Did you share that you could stop sharing now. I just want to show people that. There's a lot of myths about hypnosis, what it is and what it isn't. Yeah. Now, firstly, what I want to begin with, hypnosis is a naturalistic state. Hypnosis is a naturalistic state. What is a naturalistic state? I guess all states are naturalistic unless they're drug-induced. But hypnosis is a lot more naturalistic than you may think, with people entering the equivalent of a hypnotic state many times through the day and night. So there are two distinct states that you'll be aware of that resemble hypnosis, or are close to hypnosis, that you have been in, most likely, in the last 12 hours, twice. They are the hypnagogic state, hypnagogic, and the hypnopompic state. Hypnagogic and hypnopompic. Ooh. Did you enjoy it? That bit of did you enjoy the hypnopompia and the hypnagogia? So the hypnopompic state is the transition between waking and sleeping. It's the drifting off state. And the hypnopompic, that's hypnagogic. The hypnopompic state is the transition between sleeping and waking. Hypno. A surgeon called Dr. James Braid, around about 1870, I think, coined the term hypnotic and hypnosis for the state that people entered into through his hypnotic inductions. And the pioneers of modern hypnosis were surgeons who were doing complex. So in Victorian times, there was no anesthetic. So that's and James Braid realized that he misnamed, and he misnamed it, but the name stuck, because hypno in Greek means to sleep. Yeah, and hypnosis is not sleep, it's different. Okay, but so we stuck with the word hypnosis. So last night, when you went to sleep, you transitioned through hypnagogia into your first cycle of sleep, which is called deep sleep, usually. But usually the first cycle is deep. And it lasts about 90 minutes. Then you rouse up, and if whoever's next to you, if there's anybody next to you, if they go into this deep sleep first, it can be a bit inconvenient, because this is when we're out, the head's back, like the drool is coming out of the mouth. Yeah, you know, the most attractive person becomes like an ogre. Yeah, with dribble coming down there. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's Michael McIntyre does this thing about how his beautiful wife just transforms in like, And then after 90 minutes of deep sleep, you will rouse up, have some rapid eye movement. Some people will shout, bastards! And go back into the second cycle of deep sleep. Now, as the night progresses, the cycles become shorter and the sleep becomes lighter. and the space in between them becomes longer. So in the last cycle of sleep, that's when you're drifting in and out. You're half asleep, half awake. Yeah, going into that hypnagogic state. And that hypnagogic state is very much like a trance, hypnotic trance. Same brain waves. Yeah, you haven't got your everyday process in a highly creative time, which is why I highly recommend, as you go back into your everyday lives, some of you are already, is avoid the alarms if you can. Obviously, if you're going to get a plane, it's quite important. But in every day, if you, and this is not about sleep, it's about hypnosis. But if you go to bed early and sleep well, yeah, you don't need an alarm. If you know the right amount of sleep you need or to function. Sometimes I think people hypnotize themselves into thinking they need more sleep than they do. It's because this whole thing, I haven't had enough sleep. They wake up, But if you've got an alarm, these sounds are brutal. Yeah, you begin your day with the internal mantra of "oh fuck, I haven't had enough sleep." Yeah, so it's kind of like that transition is like a trance. Now, as you go through your day, you will notice times in the day when you go on vacation for a couple of minutes or even more. And some of these vacations that you take can be when you're driving. Have you ever been on a motorway? In America, they're called highways, I think. Highways. Have you ever been on a highway? Or I think in Europe, they're called freeways. Freeways. Do you like freeways? I love freeways. Freeways. Highways. Sounds so much better than motorway. Some people say when you're on the motorway driving, you are in an auto trance. Auto trance. And then you make it on a motorway. In England, there's a motorway. Some people call it a car park, called the M25. So you actually you can never leave the M25 if you choose not to, which some tourists have got caught in that trap, because it's a circle. It goes on and on and on. But let's say you got on that motorway at junction 12. The next junction, if you're going anti-clockwise, would be number 11. Good. And the next junction for Guildford would be number 10. That's right. And the next junction would be number 4. 4. Junction 4. How did it go from junction 9 to 4? You went somewhere. You went somewhere and survived to tell the tale. Where did you go for 5 junctions? Where were you? Where were you? Were you abducted by aliens? A quick experiment, put a substitute in the car, put you back at junction 5, and you missed the junction for Croydon, which might be a positive intention from your unconscious mind, because the Croydon junction is junction 7. Remember that, junction 7. So you were in a trance, but able to function. Have you ever been at home watching a TV? Big screens now, surround sound, action movies. And you're like this. And your partner or loved one or family member, let's say partner, comes in to the room and says to you, what are you watching, darling? And you're like, and you say, television, darling. And your partner, but what's on the television, darling? Now that should be what's in the television because it's not on it. What's in the television? Do you consider that? What's in it? What's in the television? Not on it. But we'll say on it because that seems to be what's on the television, darling. And you go, programs, darling. And because your partner has studied NLP, or the NLP patterns have rubbed off on them, they say, which programs specifically, darling? And you have to admit, you've got no clue what you're watching, despite the fact you've got a massive amount of sounds around you, a massive amount of visual information, which is in the moment deleted or not in your conscious awareness. Nor is the journey were 5 junctions you missed, not in your conscious awareness. And this happens daily. So in hypnosis, we will say, as we do in NLP, that you have a conscious mind and you have an unconscious mind. Have you heard of this? Conscious mind and unconscious mind. And your conscious mind has a bandwidth. Your conscious mind has a... No, the door, Carlos. The conscious mind, they're doing the grass here. As they do in the middle of my seminars. It'll be cutting the grass right outside that window in a minute. Those of you here will be familiar with the grass cutters, cutting grass in the middle of hypnosis seminars. So, your conscious mind, according to the paper by Miller, Galanta, and Pribram, processes 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information. Once that bandwidth is full, everything else is unconscious. Now, these cycles of change in sleep and waking, when we go offline, or when we rouse up in sleep, are called ultradian rhythms. Ultradian rhythms, which are part of what's called a circadian rhythm. A circadian rhythm is our daily cycle. And the intention of this, biologically, from a biological, psychological perspective, is for short-term memory to put all put relevant information that's coming in the last 90 minutes into long-term memory, or to dump it. That's a biological description. From a hypnosis perspective, we say your conscious mind is putting something to the unconscious, because the conscious mind is now, and its short-term memory is now full. So it's like putting information over. Like taking stuff off that SIM card, put it onto the hard drive. So when we do that, there's a thing where it says, you know, when you do that, it says video processing. So you're processing. Now, as I've been talking about a lot here, and I will talk about this later, I think our conscious minds are now busier and on the go to an extent that it's unhealthy for our mental and overall well-being. So many people, the last thing they do before they go to bed is check their WhatsApps or emails or messages. And the first thing they do in the morning when they wake up is the same thing. They're living on the phone. They're living on a keyboard, a keypad. Yeah. And I think that's become very damaging for young people in particular, where we are now living on a screen, or multiple screens. Because our conscious mind is on the go and we're not allowing ourselves to process. Now, obviously, there's obvious advantages to technology, but when it takes over as it has, I think it can become unhealthy, because we're nearly now, our waking hours are nearly always full of activities.